Hi guys, this is Heather with Creativity by Heather BE. Welcome back to another card tutorial video. Today I'm going to be creating this adorable birthday card using stamps from Studio Katia. This is from their May release, and the main focus of this stamp is going to be the Kobi Bearing Gifts. I also have the coordinating dies that I'm going to use to cut out Kobi, and then I'm going to use the Lawn Fawn Itsy Bitsy Polka Dot backdrop and also a sentiment stamp from Concord in 9th. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to stamp out Kobi and his little gifts on a sheet of 80-pound Nina Solar White, and I'm going to be using the MFT Extreme Black ink for this. I love this ink. It is Copic friendly. There's no wait time for the ink to dry. You can just get started as soon as you stamp it. Occasionally I do have to stamp it a few times to get more of a crisp image, but I'll show you what I do after my Copic coloring to kind of bring back those lines. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp the stamp set out, and I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring. I am going to die cut him out, so I'm going to try to stay in the lines the best I can. There are some areas where I need to use the blender. So the colors that I'm using are E41, 42, and 43. And I'm going to start with my darkest color, which is E43. And because the stamp set, it is a bear, I'm using more straight up and down flicking motions to get the cut for the coloring on this, because I want to give the effect and the texture of him having fur and, not being so flat because he is a bear. So I'm going around using my E43 and just kind of creating those shadows around his legs. I actually did it on the inside of his legs with the darker ones, and under his arms where he's holding the little gifts, the side of his little belly. Just love his little round belly. And after I'm done with the E43, I'm going to go back in with E42 and do the same thing. And I will tell you guys, I am not anywhere near even a novice with the Copic markers. I am just really starting to kind of get the hang of blending, and I watch a lot of videos to kind of get some ideas, coloring techniques, and I suggest just practice, and that's really what's going to help. So I'm using E41 now, and I'm actually going to start from the outside of his leg and kind of flick in for the E41 for that lightest color. And I tell you, one of the things I struggle with the most is like light sources and shadows. And so what I tend to do is keep everything to the center, so if the light source is shining directly on him, so that way I know my darkest is on the sides, and then I can kind of bring it into the light in the middle. And that seems to be the easiest for me right now. So what I'm doing now is going back in and going backwards and going in with that middle one, and then I'll go back in with my darkest. And once I get all of that blended out, I am going to take my E43, which is my darkest color, and I'm going to do some straight up and down flicks for him, and just to give that fur a little bit more texture. This was very simple Copic coloring, but I felt like it turned out really well for somebody who kind of struggles with blending and getting the Copic colors to look okay, the shadows. So I suggest trying something simple like this if you're new or you're a little bit intimidated, because they can be at times, using these markers, but they're so expensive. I figure I need to learn. So for the gifts for Kobi, I decided to do a rainbow theme, so I'm going to be using the Lawn Fawn Really Rainbow paper pack, and I wanted to keep the gifts in a rainbow color. It also made it more simple. The designs on the gifts are very small. There were no real shadowing. On the bottom gift, which is orange, I did shadow a little bit. So you can see I just went through my Copics and just chose a rainbow of colors, the red that I like, the orange, and then I'm just going to go in and color those. I am going to show you all the coloring, although I'm going to speed it up rather quickly. He is carrying a pretty large stack of gifts, but it really did not take long to go through and color these. It was more just kind of choosing the colors and keeping them apart, so I didn't have, oranges on top sitting next to oranges and things like that. That was really the biggest challenge in coloring this. And I'll tell you a tip also that helps me a lot is I have all of my markers in a I use the Spectrum Noir shelves in front of me on my desk, and it's easier for me if I pull out all the colors that I'm going to use before I get started. And then if I need to shadow, I want to change something else, I can always go in and do that, but it's just easiest for me to have and know what I'm going to use. Try it out. You'll see sometimes in my projects I have little flicks up on the side of the paper, and that's just so I can see, you know, what the colors look like. And I did decide the little envelope in the back, I wanted to keep that just a white color, so I just used a really light, I believe it's C1 that I used. I will have all the products listed below and also on my blog. So this is the trick I was telling you. I use my Misty, and what I'll do is I will keep the stamp in there while I'm coloring. And when I'm done, I just position my paper back in, ink the stamp up again, and stamp it down. Because whenever you're doing your Copic coloring, you're going to lose some of those crisp lines just from the coloring. So this kind of brings them back, and you'll see once I get it inked up and stamped out, it really gives it those crisp dark lines again. You can tell the difference there. So once I've got that done, I'm going to go ahead and get my backdrop together. So this is the new Itsy Bitsy Polka Dot backdrop stamp from Lawn Fawn. Love this stamp. The holes are so small. I am using, as I said earlier, a sheet of paper from the Really Rainbow. But the holes are so small on this, I wasn't quite sure how well you were going to be able to see the rainbow paper through it. You can. It is fabulous. This die, I will be using this die a lot in future videos. And you can see there, you can see the rainbow really clearly through it. So when I was first laying this out, I thought I wanted to place Kobi on it, going up and down, and then I decided I'd rather have a horizontal card versus a vertical. So I will change that. So this is that Concord in 9th set, and there's a happy birthday sentiment in there, and I will tell you, I am using the MFT fishtail sentiment strips. These are my go-to for sentiment strips. I have seen hundreds of videos where people will draw the little line and they cut through in fishtails. I cannot do it. I don't know why. I struggle with that. I get frustrated. And so I purchased these from MFT, and I do have several other sentiment banner strips that are fishtail like this, but these are my favorite by far. They fit most of my sentiments, so I highly suggest you invest in these if you're struggling with that like I was. So I decided to stamp the sentiment out, and this is the Lawn Fawn Sugar Plum paper is what I'm using here. And I'm just going to heat emboss this. I use my tool, my powder tool, and stamped it up with Versamark ink, and I'm just going to heat emboss this with white heat embossing. This is the Nouveau white heat embossing here, or white embossing powder, and I went through several white embossing powders before I found one that I really liked, and this has been my favorite so far. It goes on crisp, you get that really bright white, and so this has been one of my favorites. So I've got my Really Rainbow paper there, and I will tell you, this is another paper pad. I don't know about you, but I tend to hoard little paper pads, and this is one I actually use. I actually bought a second one because I just loved it so much. The colors are so bright and vivid in this paper pad. It's from Lawn Fawn. So I'm adhering that, and I am using the Nouveau liquid adhesive to adhere that down. Very, very strong liquid adhesive, great glue. So there you can see I decided to flip that around. So I wanted to show you, typically I don't leave in when I'm adding the adhesives to my projects, but I wanted to show you, I have this large roll of the 3M foam tape. And if I cut extra, what I'll do is I will just stick it to the side of my roll. And then as I need smaller pieces, as you can see that I'm doing here, I'll just pull them out so I'll still use them. So I'm not wasting them. They're not stuck someplace I don't know where they are, and that has worked wonderful because you know that 3M foam tape is not inexpensive, and so that way I can make sure that I'm using it all. So I've got my banner down, and I'm just going to add Kobi to it. Very simple, clean card. This is my first Studio Katia stamp set, and I have to say I love it. There was also a stamp set in this in this release that had a little turtle, and I purchased that one as well, so I will be doing a stamp with that one also. So not showing in the video, but I did go back and add some Nouveau glimmer pen to the gifts, and then I added a little bit of glossy accents just to the circles on the gifts. So you can see the finished card. Such an easy, fun card to do. I really encourage you to try your Copic coloring with this one, and definitely try out that itsy bitsy backdrop. Have a great day. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.